Hello, I am Dr. Mirela Cerneianu, and I welcome you to the Wellness Optimizing Warrior MD podcast, the WOW MD podcast. I am not your typical wellness coach, and this is not a typical wellness podcast. Here, I'll discuss educational facts about health, hormones, intimacy, anti-aging, and beauty trends, all very hot topics, to empower you to make great choices when it comes to your health and to your body. I want you to go, wow, I did not know that. Or, wow, this is going to make a great difference for me. Our healthcare system is broken and it needs a revolution. You and I can start one today. I am willing to share my knowledge with the world if you're willing to listen. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Wellness Optimizing Warrior MD, the WOW MD podcast. In the last episode, I talked about the estrogen receptors and why they are so important for you to know, to understand, because they could be the key to many of our pathological problems, to many of our female diseases and many of our cancers. And in this episode, I'm going to talk more about the estrogen receptor disruptors. The top 10 ways that these disruptors interfere with our hormones, the top 10 signs and symptoms of exposure to estrogen receptor disruptors, and the top 10 strategies that you could use to detoxify from these disruptors. So I'm going to start right where I left off in the last episode. I talked about estrogen receptors. I explained how they work, and I explained what an estrogen disruptor was. This episode is focusing on estrogen receptor disruptors. So let's define what they are. These are substances that interfere with the normal functioning of estrogen in our bodies. These disruptors can mimic, block, or alter the effects of estrogen on our cells, leading to hormonal imbalances and obviously significant potential health risks. Now, you might have not known that, but according to the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, in the 1990s, some scientists proposed that certain chemicals might be disrupting the endocrine systems of wildlife and possibly humans. We all start noticing things in the wildlife, and then some smart people are saying, wait a minute, if it's happened to animals and fish and mollusks, is it not happening to us as well? And the answer is surprise, yes. So a variety of chemicals have been found to disrupt the endocrine system of animals in laboratory studies, and some very compelling evidence shows that endocrine systems of fish and wildlife have been affected by chemical contaminants, resulting in developmental and reproductive problems. We'll talk more about that in a minute. EPA has screening results for over 1,800 chemicals that have been evaluated using various assays in a computational model for the estrogen receptor pathways. EPA admits that several conflicting reports have been published concerning declines in the quality and quantity of sperm production in humans over the last 4 decades, and that there are reported increases in certain cancers caused by these chemicals: breast cancer, prostate cancer, testicular cancer, uterine cancer, etc. Such effects, according to the EPA, may have an endocrine-related basis, which has led to speculation about the possibility that these endocrine consequences may have environmental causes. So back to our topic, the disruptors that are called xenoestrogens. These are natural or industrial compounds that are normally found in the diet that we eat, our foods, in the beverages that we drink, and the environment that we live and surround ourselves with. And these compounds, these chemical compounds, are capable of mimicking part of the effects of our own endogenous estrogens. Endogenous means we make them. And they are capable of interfering with the estrogen signaling pathways. So these xenoestrogens are considered endocrine disruptors, and they're also called endocrine disrupting chemicals, EDCs. The notion of endocrine disruptors appeared in our life on the medical firmament at the end of the 20th century. And these chemicals were defined as exogenous compounds that interfere with signaling pathways of our endogenous hormones at the level of hormone synthesis, storage, metabolism, transport, elimination, and binding to the receptors. So pretty much these chemical compounds interfere at every single aspect of the hormone receptor function and outside of the interaction with the hormone receptors. Now, additionally, these chemical disruptors are characterized by a very interesting ability to have very bad effects on the health of not just the living organisms, but also their descendants. These chemicals have numerous origins, they have various chemical structures, and they act on various targets at molecular level. Exposure to estrogen disruptors has been associated with an increased risk of various hormone-related cancer. This is a well-known fact that includes uterine cancer, breast cancer, testicular cancer, ovarian cancer. So some of the common estrogen disruptors include certain chemicals found in plastics, like BPA, in pesticides, industrial chemicals, some pharmaceuticals. All of these substances can enter the body through ingestion, inhalation, skin contact, and they all disrupt hormonal pathways by interfering with the production, the transport, the metabolism, or the action of our estrogen, and obviously testosterone too. But the subject today is estrogen receptors. Feel free to check out at the bottom of the show notes this link that I posted, and feel free to read this article published in nature.com about the top 10 key characteristics of how these endocrine disruptor chemicals interfere with our hormones. I'm going to give you the 10 ways they interfere here, so you don't have to actually go read the article. But if you'd like to read it in detail, there's a lot more information there. So, number one, the key characteristic of these disruptors is they interact or activate hormone receptors. Number two, they antagonize our hormone receptors. So they just block them, and our hormones can't do jack squat with the receptor anymore. Number three, they alter hormone receptor expression. So whatever that hormone receptor is supposed to do, once it's bound to the hormone, it will do something totally different. Number four, it alters signal transduction in hormone-responsive cells. Number five, it will induce epigenetic modifications in hormone-producing or hormone-responsive cells. Number six, it will alter hormone production. Number seven, they alter hormone transport across cell membrane, that passive diffusion I mentioned before in the previous episode. Number eight, they alter hormone distribution and circulating levels of hormones. Number nine, they alter hormone metabolism or hormone clearance, so you can't get rid of your hormones in a good, healthy way. Number 10, they alter the fate of hormone-producing or hormone-responsive cells. Again, very interesting article. There are 10 ways, 10 described key characteristics of how these disruptors mess our body up. So coming back to more details about these disruptors, xenoestrogens, for example, phthalates, can be extremely persistent in the environment. Some of these EDCs, for example, polychlorinated biphenyls, those are PCBs, are actually able to bioaccumulate in the food chain or in several biological tissues like our fat, and often exhibit effects at very weak concentration or in combination with other chemicals. So you don't need to be intoxicated. All you need is a little bit. So also what you might need to know is that among the numerous sources of exposure, the most common are ingestion of water or contaminated food, I mentioned this before, cosmetic products, pharmaceuticals, birth control pills, industrial exposure, or contact via different professional activities, pesticide exposure, painting, woodworking, welding, etc. It is important to underline that the exposure to these compounds can have particularly critical effects at the fetal and postnatal stages, and that the development of the nervous system and our reproductive organs can be severely disrupted at these stages, as numerous such tissues are particularly sensitive to hormonal regulation, which means if you are pregnant, you want to be very careful of what you put inside your body or what chemicals are present in the environment that surrounds you. Again, food for thought, but why do we see such an explosion of issues with gender and sex hormones? Why? Is this something that has to do with the extraordinary exposure to these chemicals that has occurred in the past decades? Food for thought. I don't know, but it's a possibility. Xenoestrogens can affect our endocrine system at every level. For example, talking about the 10 ways they can interfere with our body, they can disrupt the action of enzymes involved in the process of making the sex hormones. They could disturb the aromatase activity, which modifies the estrogen-androgen balance. So they will alter the development or the function of reproductive organs. This was observed with some pesticides. Some PCB metabolites inhibit an enzyme involved in estrogen elimination, which results in an increase in circulating estrogen. The transport of hormones can also be used as the target of these chemical compounds, capable of interacting with the binding sites of sex hormone binding globulin, competing with our own endogenous estrogen for these carrier proteins. Meaning you get exposed to the chemical molecules, they now preferentially get carried away by these sex hormone binding globulins instead of your own hormone, which ends up circulating freely and creating problems. However, the most studied mode of action of these xenoestrogens is their focused ability to bind and activate estrogen receptors in various target tissues. And in the last episode, I talked about the two types of estrogen receptors, alpha and beta, and how these two estrogen receptors mediate very distinct biological effects in many tissues: the breast, the bone, the brain, the vascular system in both males and females. Because estrogen receptor alpha and beta show partially different tissue distribution and distinct physiological functions, these xenoestrogens, these chemicals, could also have agonist or antagonistic activity in a very tissue-selective manner. The correlation between these estrogen disruptors and the risk of uterine cancer, breast cancer, is still an area of ongoing research. But many people are totally sold on this hypothesis, and they're like, we got to make some progress faster in this respect. Many studies have suggested that exposure to certain EDCs, estrogen disrupting chemicals, may be associated with an elevated risk of developing uterine cancer, particularly in postmenopausal women. They don't have any more estrogen. They haven't had estrogen in decades. Why are they getting cancer? Again, explains why women who no longer have had estrogen suddenly develop uterine or breast cancer. So instead of looking at estrogen as being the evil hormone, maybe it is time for us to accept and acknowledge that our God-given hormone, it's not what causes cancer, but the exposure to these estrogen-disrupting chemicals that we literally surround ourselves with is the problem. These EDCs can clearly disrupt the delicate balance of our estrogen in the body. They can potentially lead to uncontrolled cellular growth and the development of cancerous tumors in the uterus, the breast, the ovary, the testicle, etc. What is interesting is that these xenoestrogens generally act in 100 to 1,000 folds greater concentration than estradiol, but they can also have additive or synergistic effects with our own endogenous estradiol, the one that we make on our own, or when they are present in combination with estrogen. So the ability of some of these xenoestrogens to act as agonists in certain tissues and antagonists in the others led to the development and the use of SERMs, selective estrogen receptor modulators, in particular for anti-hormonal treatments, tamoxifen and raloxifene, etc. Now, if we want to reduce the risk of cancer associated with these estrogen disruptors, we need to minimize exposure to these substances whenever possible. So this can be achieved by choosing products free of known EDCs, opting for organic foods, using natural cleaning, personal care products, avoiding canned food, etc. Now, overall, understanding the role of estrogen receptor disruptors and their correlation with cancer risk is essential in promoting preventive measures and developing strategies to mitigate the impact of hormonal imbalances on women's health. And I strongly believe that by addressing these modifiable risk factors and raising awareness about the potential hazards of these estrogen disruptors, we, the medical community, myself in particular with this podcast episode, can empower you, the individual, to make informed choices that will support your hormonal balance and hopefully reduce the risk of developing uterine cancer, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, testicular cancer, etc. So what are the top 10 signs and symptoms that you've been exposed to estrogen receptor disruptors? Remember, these are chemicals that interfere with the normal function of estrogen receptors in the body. They mimic or block your estrogen, leading to hormonal imbalances and problems in your health. So, number 1, changes in menstrual cycles. Women may experience irregular menstrual cycles, changes in the duration or intensity of the periods, or abnormal bleeding patterns because of the hormonal disruption caused by these disruptors. Number 2, infertility, and this is a really big one. These EDCs, estrogen disrupting chemicals, can affect reproductive function because they disrupt hormone levels that are essential for ovulation and fertility. And again, women can experience difficulties conceiving or maintaining a pregnancy because of exposure to these chemicals. Number 3, breast changes. Changes in our breast tissue, breast tenderness, lumps, abnormal growths, may occur in response to hormonal imbalances caused by these EDCs because they latch onto your receptors, they cause crazy signaling, out of control, pathway modifications that lead to cellular growth and proliferation, and you wonder, what the heck, I'm at menopause. My breasts shouldn't be sore, but they are. That's why. Number 4, weight gain. And this is a really, really, really big one. Hormonal disruptions from these estrogen receptor disruptors will impact your metabolism and will lead to weight gain, particularly in the abdominal area. So persistent exposure to these chemicals may contribute to obesity and its related health issues. Number 5, mood swings and emotional changes. These disruptors can influence neurotransmitter levels, can affect mood regulation, creating mood swings, irritability, anxiety, depression in individuals that are exposed to these chemicals. Number 6, fatigue and low energy. Many of these receptor disruptions cause hormonal imbalances. So your hormones are blocked, so you cannot do anything in the cells. That might lead to fatigue, low energy, and a general sense of tiredness, of being lethargic. Consider fatigue the first sign of a big problem in the body, whether it's toxins, severe viral infection, cancer. Fatigue is never to be taken for granted. Number 7, and this is a big one, thyroid dysfunction. These estrogen receptor disruptors, these chemicals can interfere with our thyroid, causing hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. And obviously, symptoms will include fatigue, weight fluctuations, changes in our body temperature regulation, and all kinds of other problems. Number 8, endometriosis. Exposure to these chemicals has been associated with an increased risk of endometriosis, a very painful condition where tissue similar to the lining inside the uterus will actually grow into the uterus and outside the uterus. Symptoms like pelvic pain, menstrual irregularities, fertility problems are very common. I will dedicate a podcast episode about endometriosis. Please stay tuned. Breast cancer, number 9. I've talked about this last episode. This episode, I explained how these disruptions in our hormone pathways will cause excessive, abnormal growth. Our receptors are being hijacked. And because of that, it's a very high risk for cancer. And number 10, various reproductive disorders. I'm going to bunch these up, like a bunch of them. Polycystic ovaries, PCOS, fibroids, many other reproductive disorders in both men and women are caused by this, but specifically PCOS, PCOS used to be something that we would see 20 years ago in women that are overweight. They had very few periods. They couldn't get pregnant. And they had a lot of very specific signs and symptoms. Now, we see PCOS and polycystic ovaries in young, skinny women that have all these other problems and suffer from anxiety and female problems. And we wonder why. Well, let's talk about how we can detox next. So again, please note that individual responses to estrogen receptor disruptors may vary. So we're all very different individuals. We can take 10 different people, expose them to the same quantity of chemicals. Their exposure response will be very different. So the signs and symptoms of the exposure will manifest differently depending on different factors. The durational level of exposure, our own genetic predisposition, our overall health status. So it's not the same in everybody. But if you suspect, based on what I've told you, that you may have been exposed to estrogen receptor disruptors, please consult with a healthcare provider to evaluate, to diagnose, to take appropriate management strategies. So avoiding exposure by lifestyle, environmental changes will help reduce the risk of these hormonal disruptions and their associated health effects. So how can we detoxify? Well, detoxifying the body of estrogen receptor disruptors involves adopting a holistic approach to minimize exposure to these harmful chemicals, while we also support the body's natural detoxification processes. So here are my top 10 strategies that can help a woman and a man effectively detoxify the body of these estrogen receptor disruptors. Number 1, reduce exposure. Limiting exposure to sources of estrogen receptor disruptors is critical. Avoid plastic, BPA-containing containers, pesticides, synthetic hormones in your food, personal care products with harmful chemicals. Say no to plastics and no to canned food. Wash your hands a lot and avoid fragrances. So reduce exposure. Number 2, eat a clean and balanced diet. Consume a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains and lean proteins. An anti-inflammatory Mediterranean diet will support the body's detoxification pathways. Foods that are high in fiber, foods that are high in antioxidants and phytonutrients can help eliminate toxins and promote hormone balance. Number 3, stay hydrated. It's important to flush the toxins out. Drinking an adequate amount of water will help us flush out these toxins and will support a healthy kidney function, which will play a very key role in eliminating these waste products, including our EDCs. And whenever possible, please filter your tap water. Remember, you might have a filter in your fridge and you might drink filtered water, but you need to cook with filtered water and consider showering with filtered water. Number 4, engage in regular exercise. Physical activity promotes circulation, promotes sweating. That's a detox. Promotes lymphatic drainage. That helps you detox. Those are very, very essential for the removal of toxins from the body. And again, I'm going to put massage in here too, because it's somewhat of an exercise, not just for the masseuse, but for you. And please remember to incorporate both cardiovascular and strength training exercises because they both support overall detoxification. Number 5, reduce your stress. Chronic stress can disrupt hormone balance and impair the body's natural detoxification process. Use mind-body techniques, yoga, meditation, deep breathing, mindfulness. These can help you manage your stress level and support your detox. Number 6, support your liver. The liver plays a central role in detoxifying you of any toxins, including EDCs. So eat liver-supporting foods, cruciferous vegetables, garlic, onion, dandelion greens, or take liver-supportive supplements like milk thistle. All of these can aid in detoxifying and helping your liver help you detoxify. Number 7, prioritize your sleep. Adequate sleep is essential for your body to repair and regenerate, including having the resources to do this detoxification that we want it to do. Aim for 7 minimum, 9 maximum hours of quality sleep each night in order to have good health and good detoxification. Number 8, use natural cleaning and personal care products. Switch to smarter, natural, eco-friendly cleaning products and personal care items. It will help you reduce exposure to these chemicals that are commonly found in any conventional products. Dust and vacuum often. I vacuum my house daily. I have a fur baby and she sheds, so gotta be clean. Number 9, consider hormone balancing herbs and supplements. There are certain herbs and supplements like DIM, calcium D-glucarate, green tea, resveratrol, those are just a few, may support hormone balance and detox pathways in the body. And 10, last but not least, consult a healthcare provider that is familiar with detoxification and chemicals. If you suspect high levels of estrogen receptor disruptions in your body or experience persistent symptoms of hormone imbalance, consult a healthcare provider that specializes in integrative or functional medicine. They can offer personalized guidance and recommendations for detox protocols tailored to your individual needs. I'm not talking about a juicing, fasting cleanse. And last but not least, it's important to approach detoxification as a long-term lifestyle change rather than a quick fix. However, though not easy, by adopting healthy habits, minimizing exposure, and supporting the body's natural detox mechanism, women can effectively detoxify their bodies of estrogen receptor disruptors and promote overall health and well-being. I strongly encourage all my patients to consider a detox program once or twice a year. It's usually 2 to 3 weeks, especially if they suffer from weight issues, from chronic fatigue, from foggy brain. And I recommend it as a safety measure for all menopausal patients who are using hormone replacement therapy. I'm talking about medical-grade detoxification with products that support phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox, healthy bowel movements, and elimination of certain daily disruptors like coffee, alcohol, sugar, while consuming a healthy diet. It's usually a very simple program that you can follow that will allow your body to get rid of the burden of toxins and cleanse itself. Our body is absolutely amazing. It has all it needs. It can fix anything with a little help. And if you're not sure what to do next, we can help. So please make an appointment. Myself and my team will be happy to help you at Hera Healthcare because we care. Thank you for listening. If you liked the information you heard and you'd like to hear more, please subscribe and follow my podcast. Should you find the content helpful to not just you, but possibly others, please share it and feel free to leave us a review. You are welcome to join the Facebook group, The Warrior Optimizing Wellness MD. I certainly hope that you've heard many things in this podcast that made you go, wow, I did not know that, or wow, I'd like to know more. So keep listening and I'll keep talking.